Okay, so in the last video, I kind of introduced the concept with a little more understanding of manipulating space, which kind of works off of a previous video I did. And it's really a part of developing the purposeful habits that I talk about. So in the last video, I talked about how I try to keep my arm in the same spot, how I try to minimize the amount of movement. So I'm going to explain it a little better or a little more. The reason why you want to learn how to do this, another reason is, if I'm going to say, for whatever reason, we're in a fight, we already got past talking about each other's mothers, all that stuff, right? And so I want to bring my hand back to punch him in the face. The problem with drawing my hand all the way back and then hitting him is, number one, from here to here now, I'm creating all this unnecessary space. And because I'm creating unnecessary space, it gives him time to do other things, whatever the heck that's going to be. Or if he decides to step in as I'm drawing back, to step in as now he's right on me because I've created the space for him, if that makes sense. So what I do is, I kind of do, and you actually see boxers do this all the time. I'm not sure if they're aware they do it, but they do it. If you notice when a boxer throws a punch and he pounces, he actually throws a punch, and as his hands are coming back, he's actually got this kind of manipulating space thing going on. I don't know if you can see this well. So as I'm moving, I throw a jab, let's say. I throw a jab, right? And then, instead of pulling my arm all the way back and doing this, I move in right behind it. And what that does is, it cuts down on the amount of unnecessary space I have to cover. In other words, obviously, as I'm doing this, my arm is going to come back some, but by moving my body forward, I can reposition my arm in the position it needs to be in to layers of wood on him without creating this unnecessary kind of vacuum that allows him to fill. So as I'm moving with people, and I'm practicing this because I'm not boxing, and because my hands are now free because I don't have boxing gloves on, limiting my ability to use my hands. As I'm doing these things, notice from here to here, all this space, and maybe this is like, 18 inches, 24 inches. So rather than do something like this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna collapse in and collapse the sphere, and I'm gonna use this space. Now watch what happens when I tool replace here. I'm bringing my arm across, but notice as I'm bringing my arm across, now I'll just step back so you can see this a little better. As I'm bringing my arm across, notice my arm is not actually moving that much. Obviously there's still some movement in my arm as I'm making this adjustment for my tool replacement. But my body is doing most of the work. So I accomplish the same thing just by taking a step without moving my arm too much. The reason you want to do that and get good at that, and it doesn't take long to get at, by the way, is because should he move as I'm trying to just do something, as I'm trying to do this, I still maintain enough range of motion in my arm to kind of like get the heck out of the way, or at least feel what he's doing. So if I got to pass his arm, or if I'm stepping like that and that elbow comes up, the last thing I want is this. That doesn't work for me. That's not a positive experience. So as I feel that, and that elbow comes, whoa! I still have enough range of motion to kind of play around and get my face out of the way before I end up, getting knocked into a coma or something. So as I'm bringing that arm across, and again, this is just an example. There are millions of things you can do. I'm just telling you. And I'll explain that in the subsequent bit. As I'm coming across, this hand is collapsing. This arm is kind of adjusting. And it goes here only so that I know where the arm is. That gives me the freedom to take this step and allows me to adjust. But as I'm doing this tool replacement, watch what's going to happen. I'm going to get closer with my body in a manly way, of course. And as I get closer, notice what I'm doing here. I'm not going back to Missouri to throw this punch, right? I'm bringing this up, and now I'm going for my hook punch and send him off to see his ancestors, and maybe even make the mortgage the bank's problem, that kind of thing. So watch how this works. So I'm here whenever we're fighting, and all of a sudden I'm here, and I'm gonna hit him right behind the ear. Notice now as I'm turning, dropping into that other leg, I'm gonna hit him with all my might. But it doesn't end there, boys and girls. And it's kind of like, those cheesy commercials you see. And then I'm going to bring that elbow, and I'm going to hit them so hard, they're going to want to die. Just I'll stop hitting them in the back of the head with my elbow. So as I'm collapsing, what I'm doing is I'm feeling everything going on relative to my body and his body as we're both moving. I'm tracking his movement. So one of the big things I think gets missed in the martial arts is, and I always got, even within my own system, remind myself of this stuff, is that the way in which we really make technique work is, it's not the technique or the physics behind the technique. Those are important things. It's we as people, based on feeling what the other person is doing relative to our body, we make the technique work. We're making adjustments as we go along. This is the reason why you get in there with some, like my old wrestling coach, Brian Tompkins. I'm just telling you, if he gets his hands on you, you can only hope you die fast enough. I'm just telling you. He's just one of those people, if you let him grab you, it's gonna be a problem for you. Maybe he doesn't peel your head off because he's just a mean guy when he wants to be a mean guy. My point is, this guy's got millions upon millions upon millions of impressions and touches on human bodies, right? There's not a whole lot you can do to get away from a person who has that level of development, or what I call impressions, or that level of neural pathway development. It's just the way it is, right? Good news is Tukey and Ray Ray generally don't have that. They may have been in a lot of fights, but they don't necessarily know what they're doing or have that development, okay? So anyway, as I'm moving and I'm doing these things, I'm also staying with my hands and arms and my body, relatively speaking, as close to the other person as possible. And the reason is, if I'm trying to get past his arm, and I create all this unnecessary space because I'm doing something crazy out here, I'm gonna get slugged in the head. But if I'm here close, notice my hand, again, this is just a demo, is gonna pass close to his body because it's close to his arm. So I'm tracking that motion. Notice my hand comes right off of here, maybe even grazes a little so I don't lose my place. I can feel the elbow is there, and I can, kick whatever I'm gonna do. But the point is, I'm always tracking and feeling what they're doing. Grandmaster Karen, when he moved with people, he liked to always have a little bit of contact, even if it was very light contact, because he knew his proprioception, one of the great skills we have as humans is, our proprioception can feel other parts of a person's body, even if we're not looking directly at it. It's one of the coolest abilities we have, where I can touch his hand and I know his sternum is there. I can touch his hand, I can kick him in the leg, I know his sternum is there, I know that's the side of his neck, I'm not even looking at him. We all have this ability. And for those of us, who grew up where your mom had like a sixth sense, she could pick something up and throw it across the room and hit you in the side of the head because you did something you weren't supposed to do. So this is not magic, it's not mystical, it's all a part of being human, but you got to practice it to develop the timing and touch to be able to take advantage of it. So as I'm moving with Jack here, he's going, he's hitting, right? Well, he's also tracking my movement as well. So he's playing the same game. So as I'm trying to control his hands, notice as I'm pushing or trying to dominate, how close as he's moving in to hit and slipping this stuff, he's actually staying to my hand. So even though I will push on this side so you can see. So even if I push his arm like that, now let's go slow so I can see. Notice as I'm pushing with force, I'm not gonna push as hard as I did before because I got hurt. Notice how close his arm actually stays underneath my arm. Because why? Because he's tracking me. So I try to get out of the way. Notice I couldn't get out of the way in time. Why? Number one, he has enough range of motion to make it work. Number two, he's tracking that. So he's making adjustments in his body to be able to do that. So this is the reason why you want to habituate this to whereas it becomes a purposeful habit, so that you don't have to think about this. In the next video, I kind of covered a little more detail on how you can use this to kind of make your techniques or your clearing skills better.